Scientists warn that the UK is already experiencing the disruptive effects of climate change. Increased rainfall, more sunshine and higher temperatures are now established features of our weather.
Climate change isn't just something that's going to happen in 2050 or we need to worry about towards the end of the century. We are seeing this very clearly in our observations now.
2020 was the third warmest across the UK on record, also this lunchtime. Team GB have secured 2 more medals at the Tokyo Games, bronze in trap shooting and silver in the women's canoe slalom.
It can mean so much for people, and I hope that people see One Woman now as an event that's really high class. There was some amazing paddling out there.
The British swimming star Tom Dean, who won 2 gold medals in the pool, tells the BBC he can't stop watching video of the celebrations back home of his wins.
I always had a hunch that my mum would put on a big party. She loves putting on a big party, so and I think that shows how much it means to people back home. And you know, it's the Olympics. It's so emotional. It's the biggest competition in the world.
500,000 fewer people are now on furlough, but experts warn there could be job cuts as government support eases. And doctors in Cambridge prescribe videos to children with long-term illnesses. The films feature other youngsters offering support.
You can taste mint in the back end, and that's the last thing I can remember, just going, like saying, oh, minty, the all just gone.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, COVID-19 strikes right at the heart of the Tokyo Olympics as the world champion pole vaulter Sam Kendricks tests positive and withdraws a day before track and field events start.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BBC News at midday. The Met Office says climate change is already being felt across the UK and that 2020 was the third warmest year on record. In its latest report on the state of Britain's climate, meteorologists say increased rainfall as well as higher temperatures are now recognisable features of our weather. As well as being the third warmest year on record, 2020 was also the 5th wettest and the 8th sunniest. Here's our science correspondent, Rebecca Morell.
Dramatic changes in our skies. In 2020, the UK experienced a year of extremes, from storms in February which caused chaos across the country, to a summer heatwave where temperatures sweltered above 34 degrees for 6 consecutive days, and rain in October with the UK's wettest day on record. It's all charted in an annual assessment of the climate, which found the UK's getting wetter, warmer and sunnier.
We can see very clearly from our observations that the UK's climate is already changing. So climate change isn't just something that's going to happen in 2050 or we need to worry about towards the end of the century. We are seeing this very clearly in our observations now.
The report compared the most recent 3 decades with the 30 years before and found that on average the UK was 0.9 degrees hotter. For rainfall, the country was an average of 6% wetter. And 2020 was the 8th sunniest year recorded in the last 100 years. New defences are under construction, like this tidal barrier in Lincolnshire to cope with future storm surges. But the reality is flooding is having a devastating impact now, with some homes being flooded again and again. Changes that seem small having a very big effect on people's lives.
What's interesting about this report is there's lots of data in there. So there's lots of temperature records and percentage changes. But actually what we're seeing are the impacts to us as humans, to our businesses, to ecology across the UK. You know, it really is being played out in front of our eyes.
Come rain or shine, the world will be heading to Glasgow later this year for the United Nations Climate Summit. And we'll find out if governments can rise to the challenge of cutting emissions to stop the worst effects of climate change. Right now, the elements show no signs of letting up, with this week's flash floods taking London by surprise. Scientists will continue to track and analyse these events, but they warn that extremes are becoming the new norm. Rebecca Morell, BBC News.
Let's talk to our energy and environment analyst, Roger Harrabin. Roger, the facts are in then from the Met Office. We've got warmer winters, we've got wetter summers. Is this man-made climate change?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're following a global pattern here, and every heat wave is elevated by the amount that the emissions from our society have already pushed up temperatures, and every rainstorm has the potential of being bigger because a warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture. So there's no doubt that mankind is behind the changes in the climate. But to be frank, Clive, what we're seeing in the UK, some people may like the heat waves, others I know hate them. What we're seeing in the UK is very mild to what we're seeing elsewhere. So if you think of those floods in Germany, Denmark and Holland, and particularly the heat dome in the USA, which a lot of scientists have found terrifying because it was absolutely off the scale, completely not predicted under any of their projections. And there's a report out today from the UK's former chief scientist, Professor Sir David King, and I'm going to quote from it. He said, and remember we're thinking about cutting greenhouse gas emissions to virtually zero by 2050. The quote from our chief scientist is, greenhouse gas levels are already too high for a manageable future for humanity. Now, some won't agree with that, but that really is a very stark warning.
OK, Roger, thank you. Roger Harrabin there, reporting for us live. Now, Team GB have secured 2 more medals at the Tokyo Olympics, taking the tally to 18. Myrie Franklin won silver in the women's canoe slalom, while Matt Coward-Holley took bronze in the men's trap shooting. But Britain's 2-time gold medalist Helen Glover has ruled out rowing in another Olympics after the mother of 3's hopes of a fairy tale finish at Tokyo 2020 ended in a 4th-place finish. Well, our sports correspondent Natalie Perks is live in Tokyo for us now. Hi there, Natalie.
Hi Clive, yes, we've been spoilt so far, haven't we, when it comes to medals, but day 6, I'd say, it's been a bit of a slow burner for Team GB. I was at the canoe slalom earlier for Myrie Franklin's brilliant run for silver, but for Helen Glover it wasn't to be. She and Polly Swan finished an agonising 4th in the women's pairs final. Afterwards, Glover said her children had been her inspiration, and she said trying and failing is not a problem as long as you try. Words for us all to live by. Our correspondent Andy Swiss now reports on a day of ups and downs for Team GB.
From Windsor Leisure Centre to the Olympic final, Myrie Franklin was just 5 when a family day out sparked her passion for paddling. Now the ultimate test. The canoe slalom is sport's wildest white-knuckle ride, and after weaving her way through the gates, Franklin powered into the lead.
And that is a fabulous performance.
Relieved? Just a bit. The 27-year-old was in gold medal position, but with 5 more still to race, an agonising wait. Could any of them beat her? Well, they couldn't until the very last paddler, Australia's Jessica Fox, charging to gold.
Myrie Franklin!
But still silver for Franklin, and in an event making its Olympic debut for women, it was particularly sweet.
Obviously it's amazing to have the medal, and I think that it can mean so much for people, and I hope that people see One Woman now as an event that's really high class. There was some amazing paddling out there.
There was also success in the shooting. Matt Coward-Holley was once a promising rugby player, but after breaking his back as a teenager, he turned to a different sport, and he soon had a medal in his sights. A bronze for the 26-year-old, which he later described as phenomenal. For British rowing's star duo, though, there was no fairy tale finish. The story of Helen Glover, who's had 3 children since the last Olympics, and Polly Swan, an NHS doctor, has been one of the game's most compelling. But the longed-for medal didn't materialise as they finished 4th in their final. Afterwards, Glover confirmed this would be her last games, and for both of them, the emotion was clear.
The way we've attacked this project has been really exceptional, and I couldn't be prouder of her and what we've done together. It's been a special ride.
I just want to say, Logan, Kit and Bo, I love you so much. You've been my inspiration. I never saw myself getting back in a rowing boat until you guys came along, especially Kit and Bo in the lockdown. And I just want to say that you can do anything you want to do. Trying and failing is no problem as long as you try.
And there was soon more heartbreak. The lightweight women's double sculls, with Britain third from the top in a quite extraordinary finish.
The Italians are going right through the touch around, and it'll be just looking like Italy, France.
They were initially shown as joint third, but were later squeezed out of bronze by 1/100th of a second. Britain's fifth fourth-place finish in the rowing. The word frustration doesn't come close. Elsewhere, the pole vaulter Sam Kendricks, seen here winning the world title in 2019, has been ruled out of the Games after the American tested positive for COVID. 3 Australian athletes who came into contact with him are self-isolating. But it's been a memorable day for Ireland as they won their first gold of the Games. Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy in the lightweight double sculls, although they're not getting too carried away.
Gold medal winning athletes, how does that sound?
It's all right, yeah. You can't complain with it really. I heard the streets are filled with porter down in Skibbereen, so they'll all be rowing through that now for the next while.
And after Ireland's first ever gold in rowing, they've certainly got plenty to celebrate. Andy Swiss, BBC News.
Well, water has been both a blessing and a curse for Britain today. Windsurfer Emma Wilson is guaranteed a medal. We just won't know which colour until Saturday. The rowing ends tomorrow, but then we could see more success in the pool tomorrow morning because British swimmers are through to all 4 of the finals there. This has already been Britain's most successful Olympics in swimming for more than 100 years, and one man has been at the heart of all of it. Tom Dean beat COVID twice to win 2 golds, and then we had the joy of seeing his family and friends celebrating like their life depended on it back home in Maidenhead. And our sports editor, Dan Rowan, caught up with him this afternoon.
Tom Dean, you've just won the Olympic Games on the 200 metres freestyle.
Tom, good to see you again. Congratulations on everything that's happened in the last couple of days. How do you reflect on it now?
The last 2 days have been like a whirlwind. I mean, I can't even begin to explain. My phone's blowing up. You know, I'm having all these amazing messages, so kind from everyone back home. Everyone who stayed up to crazy hours of the morning to support. Even now, it's not really sinking in. I woke up this morning, I looked at these 2 gold medals, and I thought, you know, they're actually mine. So it's amazing.
And then to follow that up with the relay, I mean, how wonderful was it to have that as well and to get a second?
Honestly, you couldn't even write this. I was saying that to my sister on the phone the other day. This is a dream come true. The 4 guys I shared the podium with were, you know, the 4 best guys I could possibly imagine.
Tom Dean and Duncan Scott just delivered gold and silver.
How did you rate your chances of a gold medal coming into Tokyo?
I always knew it would take the swim of a lifetime to beat Duncan on that 200. You know, he's a world-class athlete. So it was always going to be tight, but I think you've got to go into it backing yourself for that win.
Did you know the moment you touched the wall, or did you have to wait and look at the board?
Yeah, no, I did have to wait and look because I breathed to the right on my event. I could see the Korean and the Brazilian swimmer. I couldn't see Duncan, but I knew he has a strong last 100. So I thought, just get your head down, kick as hard as you possibly can and make sure you don't mess up this finish.
Swimming's right up there, very, very competitive. So this is a major achievement, right, by Britain?
This is the pinnacle of our sport. You know, we don't have a World Cup like football or other sports which have other major events. This is it for us. And if we can put on a good show here, I think it's going to just bring up the sport within the country and get it into kind of the limelight a bit more, which is where it should be. Watching that video of my family back home just meant the world to me. I can't stop watching it. I've seen it so many times. Had me in bits when I watched that video, and looked like half of Maidenhead were there. It was amazing. I always had a hunch that my mum would put on a big party. She loves putting on a big party. So and I think that shows how much it means to people back home. And you know, it's the Olympics. It's so emotional. It's the biggest competition in the world.
Well, he was asked how he's going to celebrate now, and he said he's just going to eat all the pizza. A man after my own heart. But with all the brilliant sporting achievements happening around us, there's been a little less focus on COVID. Today, though, the number of daily cases here in Tokyo alone have risen to more than almost 4,000 cases a day. That's double the rate it was last week. Now, organisers say there's no evidence that the Olympics is causing that because cases are rising nationally. They're up to more than 10,000 cases a day across the country now. And actually, in the last hour, the national broadcast newscaster here has been reported that the state of emergency we are under in Tokyo has actually been extended to 4 other areas. There are 2 Olympics-related COVID cases in hospital currently. So the number of people linked to the games that have tested positive now so far is 193, and that includes 20 athletes. Back to the sport, and in the women's hockey pool A, there's currently a repeat of Rio's final. Great Britain, the Olympic champions, versus Netherlands, the world champions. There's 12 minutes left in that match, and that was 1-0 to the Netherlands a second ago. And in the women's all-around final in the gymnastics, well, there will be a new Olympic champion tonight, won't there? Because Simone Biles pulled out, citing mental health reasons. And we now will wait to see how that will affect Sunday. She's due to go in 2 other finals, including the floor, where she has reigned supreme for many, many years, Clive.
All right, Natalie, thank you for that. Natalie Perks there live in Tokyo. Now, there are less than 2 million people still on furlough, a drop of almost 600,000 since May and the lowest level since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. The under-25s are leaving the scheme faster than any other age group, but it's unclear whether they're heading back into full-time work. Furlough is being reduced, with employers expected to pay more, but some are warning this could trigger job losses as firms struggle to meet the costs. Here's our Consumer Affairs correspondent, Coletta Smith.
It had been such a long time coming. Just sit at my desk after a whole 15 months, it was quite exciting.
10 days ago, Rudo's life got busy again. After so long on furlough, she was over the moon to get the call asking her to come back.
I was originally supposed to come back before the December lockdown, and when the country went into lockdown at that point, I did feel a bit insecure to the fact that will I be able to come back, because I had been anticipating that initial return to work, so I did worry a little bit.
Staff here have been brought back gradually as business has picked up again, but across the UK, nearly 2 million people are still off work. Furlough comes with a £66 billion price tag for the government. But from next month, businesses are going to have to start paying more for every member of staff still not back in. And that's going to mean some difficult decisions can't be put off any longer. Joe runs this small promotions company in Stockport and says decisions about who to furlough have been really hard.
My team have been with me a long time. You know, most of them have worked for me for years. You know them very well. You know their family circumstances. You're trying to weigh up perhaps some of their financial circumstances. Who can you keep in, who can you not?
Because the business has changed so dramatically this year, to stay on top, Jo says she's had to let one person go.
We had a member of staff that had been with me a few years, but I really felt that it was an account management role, and I just felt that that wasn't what the business was going to need.
As furlough winds up over the next 2 months, lots of companies may use it as a moment to cut staff numbers.
We are seeing a lot of clients that are trying to bring in measures like part-time working, reduced hours, temporary pay cuts, etc., as an alternative to people losing their jobs. But if those things can't be agreed, then the fallback will be that some people will be made redundant.
Hi, Liam. Back in Wyboston, Rudo's boss Simon says it can't just be back to business as usual.
We have had to let a number of our staff go when we were unsure of how long furlough was going to last. But over the last year as well, we have seen a number of our employees leave the industry due to the uncertainties around hospitality.
For those who've been out of the workplace for so long, hoping to get back to life as normal, the prospect of redundancy is all the more daunting. Coletta Smith, BBC News.
It's just shy of 12:20, our top story this lunchtime. Scientists warn the UK is already experiencing the disruptive effects of climate change, with more rain, more sunshine and higher temperatures.
Climate change isn't just something that's going to happen in 2050 or we need to worry about towards the end of the century. We are seeing this very clearly in our observations now.
And coming up on the BBC News channel, joy for Ireland. It's the first ever Olympic gold in rowing for the nation on a day when their women also picked up a rowing bronze.
A Liverpool football fan who suffered life-changing injuries during the Hillsborough Stadium disaster in 1989 has died at the age of 55. The inquest into Andrew Devine's death found he'd been unlawfully killed. It makes him the 97th victim of the tragedy. Well, our correspondent Nick Garnett is at Anfield for us now. Hi there, Nick.
Hi. Andrew Devine was 22 and a lifelong Liverpool fan when he went to watch them play at Hillsborough in the FA Cup semi-final in 1989. The injuries he received there were life-changing. He needed round-the-clock care and used a wheelchair for 32 years until he died 2 days ago in hospital surrounded by his family. Now today, Liverpool players paid tribute to him by holding a 97-second silence at their pre-season training ground in Austria. The reason that Mr. Devine's death is able to be recorded as unlawful killing 32 years after he was injured has been given by the coroner of Liverpool, Andre Rebello. He gave the cause of death as not only pneumonia but brain and crush injuries, which were a direct result, he said, of what happened at Hillsborough. He said it was proportionate, reasonable and sufficient for him to adopt the findings of the inquests into the other 96 victims of the disaster. And as such, he ruled that Andrew Devine had been unlawfully killed. Now, Margaret Aspinall's son, James, died at the game. Today, she paid tribute to Andrew Devine and thinks his name should be added to the memorial behind me.
That is entirely up to the family, obviously. That's a discussion between the family, whether they'd like his name put on this. They might have a different view. But, you know, who wants to put another name on this memorial? 96 is enough.
Mr. Devine's family, who've cared for him ever since he was injured, released a statement today in which they said, "Our collective devastation is overwhelming, but so too is the realisation that we were blessed to have had Andrew with us for 32 years since the Hillsborough tragedy." Clive.
Nick, thank you for that. Nick Garnett there live at Anfield. President Biden is expected to announce that federal workers will soon be required to confirm they've been vaccinated or face more testing. The number of coronavirus cases in America is rising, with the director of the National Public Health Agency, the CDC, warning cases have more than tripled since mid-June. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes has that story.
There's a growing sense of urgency. About half the population is fully vaccinated, but infection rates are rising, the Delta variant is spreading rapidly, and the number of jabs in arms is still much lower than Joe Biden wants to see. The president is about to announce that all government workers and contractors be vaccinated against COVID-19 or be required to submit to regular testing.
We still have a lot of people not vaccinated. The pandemic we have now is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So please, 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 if you're not vaccinated, protect yourself and the children out there. It's important.
All Americans are being advised to wear face masks again indoors, in public spaces, in parts of the country with substantial or high transmission rates. That applies to 67% of counties, up in just 24 hours from 63%. Some of the big tech companies, such as Facebook and Google, have said their staff must be vaccinated before stepping back into the office. Netflix has reportedly made jabs compulsory for all cast and crew members on US productions. The enforcement of vaccination policies is now a huge challenge facing much of corporate America.
Private companies have to make the decision whether they're going to mandate vaccination, or if they're not going to mandate it, they'll allow people to come into work not vaccinated but insist on verification. But the private companies are the one that would have to do the verification because the government hasn't stepped in to do that. So I think there is a role for government here that has not been filled adequately.
With millions of Americans only just getting used to life again as it used to be, there's growing unease that the pandemic is far from over. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
A lockdown in Sydney in Australia has been extended by another month as COVID cases continue to rise. The state of New South Wales has recorded 239 new coronavirus infections, the highest daily rise since the start of the pandemic. People living in 8 hotspots in Sydney are being ordered to wear masks outdoors, and they must stay within 5 kilometres of their homes. Portsmouth Football Club has released 3 academy players following an investigation into the alleged use of racially abusive language in a social media chat group. The club began an inquiry after images allegedly showed some players posting offensive words and images in a private under-18 team chat group following England's defeat by Italy in the Euro 2020 final earlier this month. All 3 players have the right to appeal. Yesterday, Helen Glover returned to the Olympics to defend her coxless pairs title 18 months after giving birth to twins, the first mother to qualify for the British Olympic rowing team. BBC Sport Africa's Michelle Katami has been speaking to other medal-winning mothers from Kenya about the challenges facing them on the long journey back to competition after childbirth.
Eunice Sum and Janet Chepkoskei know plenty about winning. Both are former world champions. It's not the only thing they have in common. They also know how difficult it is to be an elite athlete and a mother.
When I was still young, it was like, don't get pregnant because your career will end. It was a bit difficult, to train, to bring your body back to the track. Because they think, you are finished.
The 2 Kenyan middle distance runners have been firm friends for over a decade and have come to rely on each other for child support.
2016, the Rio Olympics, my child was here with her, and it was easier maybe even for me to communicate to my daughter through Janet. My mind was set for the games.
Even so, they have not always been totally honest with each other.
I asked Eunice, have you really stopped breastfeeding? And she told me yes, and it was a lie actually.
With such a huge price to pay for becoming a mother, perhaps it's no surprise that only 2 female athletes have ever successfully defended an Olympic title after giving birth in between games. One of those is Cameroonian triple jumper Françoise Mbango. Kenya's Faith Kipyegon is aiming to emulate her by retaining the 1500 meters title in Tokyo.
It means a lot to me going to Tokyo as a mom. Yes. I can say Aline is a blessing to us. I'm going there with a strong mind, carrying a flag of Kenya and also carrying a flag of my daughter behind me.
Kipyegon is drawing inspiration from the 2019 World Championships, where she watched mothers Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price of Jamaica and American Allyson Felix sprint their way to the gold.
Charlene had a son on the track, but I left Aline at home. For me, I can't concentrate too much when the baby is there. So it's better when Alina is at home.
Despite having the support of her family, the 27-year-old agrees the idea of an informal moms club with athletes assisting each other is a good one.
To motivate and encourage the mothers that everything is possible.
I think it is something so nice having a club for mothers in athletics because we can exchange our experience,
As Eunice soon prepares for her 3rd Olympic Games, she will again be relying on her friend for support.
When you are a young mom, there are so many things which you don't know. Our friendship has grown even beyond athletics. She's not even like a real friend, she's like a mom.
Michelle Katami, BBC News, Nairobi.
Doctors at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge have begun prescribing children with long-term illnesses videos to watch. Now, the films feature other youngsters with the same conditions describing what the medical treatment is like and offering moral support. Here's our science correspondent, Richard Westcott.
They just put the anaesthetic in.
These videos are being prescribed on the NHS.
You can taste mint in the back end, and that's the last thing I can remember, just going, saying, oh, minty, just gone.
Made by children with long-term health problems for other children who've just been diagnosed.
I'm very scared of the actual needle. It took me about 2 hours to have one injection done in year 8. One injection.
Telling them what they went through.
Sometimes you're in really a lot of pain, and then it can go back to normal, then pain, then normal, then pain, and it can carry on going on and on.
Oh, Julia, you get the assist. No, I can't use my hands because I don't want to touch the ball. Nathan's now got his condition under control, so he's helped make the video to treat others. What did you think was the most important thing you had to tell people, someone who's actually gone through the illness?
Maybe make them realise that you can be all right, because now I'm fine. Since 2016, I've had this medicine and it's helping me. Because when I was younger and when I was ill, I thought no one could really understand. So it would probably help if I had videos of people that did understand.
Now this is for the children to watch the video, but
Yeah.
how useful do you think it will be for the parents?
Even better, because often, although there's social media out there, often you find these parents in isolation. I was in isolation to begin with.
The new video treatment's been pioneered by doctors at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge.
Feeling better and coping better is not only about medication. It's not only about the doctor prescribing things. It's also about helping you cope with your day-to-day challenges, with your peers, with your school. And I think that's what this broader view of a condition gives these kids. Ways that they can go and play sport, that they can have sleepovers, that they can do things that normal children do, where, to be perfectly frank, doctors and nurses don't have such a good insight into.
They're now looking to make films for children with other conditions like diabetes, epilepsy and cystic fibrosis. For the European final. Wow. Reassuring those who've just been diagnosed that things will get better. It's gone over the neighbours.
Richard Westcott, BBC News, Ipswich.
Oh dear.
Now for more on the weather, here's Helen Willits. Hi there, Helen.
Hi there, Clive. We've a storm bearing down on us. The Met Office issued an amber warning for storm alert. That's bearing down on the southwest, actually, as we go through this evening and overnight. We're expecting some unseasonably windy weather, damaging winds certainly in the forecast. Some rough conditions, no doubt, over at sea, and some high, large waves coming in. So this is the pending storm. This is low pressure that's brought us all the heavy showers and thunderstorms, and they're still not out of the question today. There shouldn't be as many of them, however. More likely southern eastern Scotland, northern England, parts of Northern Ireland. It's a little bit cloudier across northern Scotland. We've got a little bit of cloudy, patchy rain coming through northern England, North Wales. But ahead of that storm system across central and eastern areas, here we'll see the warmest weather today, the driest weather. It's quite breezy out there. In fact, quite a fresh breeze in places, but that will obviously escalate further. But 20 to 22 degrees Celsius, not far away from where they should be for this time of year. This all change, as I say, through this evening. That rain's coming in already by the end of play during the daytime, and then the winds will strengthen as that storm approaches, bringing us some wet weather through this evening across Devon, Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly, Dorset, then spreading that rain across many parts of England and Wales, accompanied by those strengthening winds, gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour in some parts, more exposed parts. That's obviously a concern. A lot of people on holiday at the moment, sleeping under canvas and heading off to the coast. There will be some quite dangerous conditions. A little bit drier in the north once the showers finally fade away. As we start tomorrow morning, it does look drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Still quite cloudy skies here, but look at this slow-moving band of rain or heavy showers with that area of low pressure or that storm, and the stronger winds will push eastwards, possibly not as strong as the southwest, probably 40-50 miles an hour, but nevertheless still unusually windy for the time of year, and more downpours, more hail, more thunder potentially as well. So 18 to 20 is a little down on today in the south, a little up in the north with a bit more brightness and fewer showers around, but the far north of Scotland quite cool and cloudy. And that brings us on to the weekend. As that area of low pressure does finally move away, that storm, it allows this northerly breeze. A northerly breeze into the weekend will also bring down some of that Arctic air. So although things look a little less intense weather-wise over the weekend, little bit more settled, it's not going to be warm. Temperatures actually will be a little bit below par, and there'll still be some showers around for the east coast and certainly across England and Wales. Some heavy ones still here, Clive.
Thank you for that. And a reminder of our top story. Scientists warn the disruptive effects of climate change are already being felt in the UK, with more rain, more sunshine and higher temperatures. That's it. Now on BBC One, time for the news where you are. Have a very good afternoon.